What's happening, gang, and welcome to another episode of Chaleo Power, the real hustle for investing, especially if you are a beginner like most of us are here. Anyways, this video I'm going to make a quick response to a multi-part question from Mr. Joji in the chat. He says, "Hey Serge, wanted to pick your brain on long-term swings. What put you on my radar was your SQ swing trade a while back, 10,000 from what I remember. I wanted to know, number one, circumstances of the trade. An example, buying the dip, price at inflection point, etc. Number two, how you pick the strike price, in the money, at the money, out the money, buy delta, buy price, etc. And number three, how the you were able to hold so long." Laughing out loud. Seriously, knowing myself, I would have cashed in at 100 to 200 gains. So any insight into your psyche there would be greatly appreciated. Obviously, I am asking for a pretty detailed response. So take your time, big homie. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Hey, thanks for asking, man. Great question, and hope you're enjoying your weekend as well. So let's do a little bit of investigation on the SQ trade. To start, right now that same trade is at 1,350%, which is 18,325 gains. So it's not 10,000, but 18,000 gain. The original investment was 1,300, and we've been holding it for about a year now. What is it? We're in April. Yep. So about a year, and yeah, pretty cool. So let's break it down. I can talk too much, but let me see if I can do this fairly quick. SQ has been a great play for us, and it's been a great company. I am bullish on SQ overall because of the research and what they stand, the technology they have. They're disrupting the market with the banks, with the small businesses, right? If you go to any business, you see SQ and all the transactions, all that cool stuff. I like the company overall. We've been trading SQ since 2018. 2019 was a great year for us. We traded that you can see the entire year. It's a nice base, right? And that is even better because it's forming a base. It was forming a base in 2019. We traded in and out, in and out. But in 2020, it started getting serious because here on some fluff news, it broke on heavy volume 3 weeks down, right? So it broke that year base. And back then, I remember I understood that this was a way too drastic drop for the case. They were releasing good news at the time. I remember they were fluffing on the small loans. They were going to be able to do it directly and so on. So at that point, let me lower this thing a little bit. So at that point, we started trading SQ. If you look at SQ, let's break it down by day. So this is when it all started. It started the trade, actually this is a good observation. My original trade for that year was a leap for this June of 2021. And if we look at those same calls, those same calls, it was for 45. Wow, that's just crazy. 45 call for June 18. And if we look at those same calls right now, those are well above the 2,000% as we speak. But of course, I did not hold the entire ride. I bought it on March 17 or around that time. It cost me 1,250. And if we look at the chart, why did I buy around that time? Like I said, this was a way too drastic move for that news. It broke the year. So down here, I thought that this chart, if we look, I'm not gonna, but it was oversold at that time. It was extremely oversold. So if we look at the 17, it's not this candle, but this candle here. So pay attention. You're asking me, why did I buy? I bought it because of the drastic move from the 80s, right, to 40s. It went down to 35. That's a lot in a matter of a few weeks. Okay, so if you can see, it was fighting it. Bulls were fighting, but didn't gain control. Fighting again. So here we had a big candle, but the next day we had a hammer candle when bulls were trying to kind of step in. So this is where I bought those first leaps, okay, in this dip. So you can see that the following days they try to flush it down, but it came back up. Again, flush it down, but it came back up. So at that point, that gives me a more confident to hold something, because number one, it doesn't close below your stop loss on volume. Every time the shorts try to bring it down, it comes back up, as you can see. Down, back up, down, back up. And here it's a doji candle. It's basically indecisive. It doesn't know where, but it's better than the drastic move. So at this point, you can see that it's forming a slight support or slight floor here, and boom, it exploded, right? So it went all the way from here, it was like in the 35, it went back up to the 55. So I'm a fan of moving up, but on drastic moves like this, is the same opinion as when it comes down too quick, it'll bounce. It will likely bounce. So the same when it comes up way too quick, it would likely come down. So at this point here, so let me see. This is the 27. Yep. So either I think I sold around the, I'm not gonna say I caught the entire move, but I sold between these 2 days. Okay, that June leap, and you can see that I had the June leap here, and on March 30th, which is a Monday, I said, hey, I'm telling to the team, hey, I took profits on SQ last week. The 30th was a Monday, so I took profit on last week, and I'm considering or starting to load on the 2022. So I secured, if we look at that was a good timing, 26, 27, right? And you can see that here, this is a Monday, the 27 was a Friday, so that's a weekend in between. But the beauty of this, look at this, right? So I secured profit, and because as we see, right? So I always say old resistance becomes new support, but also the opposite. In this case, we're talking about this was a support, and it broke. It broke the support and it went down. So now this support becomes the new resistance. So there is a high probability that once it finds a base, it will reject the first time this new resistance, right? So this is the old support now becomes your new resistance, and that's one of the reasons that I secured profits here, plus the fact that I didn't like that it bounced back way too fast, based on the previous move. Okay, so I secured profit over here on those June leaps for 2021, and the beauty after that is that it went exactly as we predicted. But if it's a good pattern, it will be coiling. Let me delete this real quick. So it'll be coiling tighter, right? And that's exactly what it did. You can see that it went down, then it rejected this resistance. Old support becomes the new resistance. That's why we sold it. We secure profit. Then it came back down, but it did a higher low. So you can see that it never touched the 35s. It went down here, it went up here. So it's coiling, which is very nice. And it went right back to this old resistance and it broke it. But it didn't break it with passion, right? It's kind of forming a base, a small base. You can see it was about a week or so where this thing is forming a nice base here. And if you look at the days here, now you have a week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, right? Where this thing is telling us, hey, I'm consolidating, right? Bulls are gaining control. So around the 19th, the 20th, right? I put this in the homework again based on this. I say, and look at the details, all right? Guys, so I say it here, SQ, another pig that paid us very well, right now needs to crack the 10 SMA resistance to continue up. Looking, that means liking, that's a typo. Liking the volume coming in and the potential after being approved to give loans to small businesses, right? I won't get ready and blah, blah, blah. But here, if you look at this is where we called it out on the 19 or that week. The 19 was like a Monday, Sunday. And we put a stop loss below the close of the previous day. And if we look at the base here on the 19, so 2019, right? So you can see that this thing is forming, like I said, a nice consolidation, nice base, and the three little resistance points. The kind of was because if you look at the alert, there was a big fuss. I'd sounded like a sleazy salesperson when it broke this multi-month or entire year resistance. It broke it here. That's when we start. I've been trading SQ, so my core position is that one, the 2022 leaps, but I've been trading SQ in and out every time it breaks a major pattern, and everything is documented in the chat. But look, this was a pretty one. After such a long base, the longer the base, the stronger the pattern. Damn, 16 minutes already. What the Anyway, so you can see that it's following the 10 SMA and it's not breaking it. Here in the 170s, 180, I on this drop here, 3 weeks drop again, they drop it to the 10 SMA for cooling down. I picked up my 2023s, so I'm currently holding a position on 2023 on my Thinkorswim. I posted in the chat, and I'm holding the 2022s on my Robinhood account. But here again, it dropped, it went up. I think I bought around here, and I posted in the chat when I bought at 0, and boom, it exploded. So right now, just for laughs and giggles, SQ, hopefully this line doesn't confuse too many, but SQ right now, look at this, is forming a W pattern. Or well, there's not a W because it didn't go below, but it's forming a nice double bottom, or it could be argued as a cup and handle. Maybe you can do this. And here, so this is the little handle right now. This blue line should be your next support. So right now, pay attention to SQ. If they flush it here and it holds, if it holds and confirm, this thing will break this 280 for sure. All right, but one thing is, for new traders out there, you do not want to be caught in the handle, because those handles can be dangerous. I have a nice profit on 2022 and 2023, so I'm comfortable holding. I will be buying I will be buying a new position once it tries to confirm or breaks this handle, and then I'll probably ride it up to the 280, which is the resistance that this thing is here potentially reaching, and high probability of coming down a little bit and then breaking it overall. So that is kind of the thinking behind the SQ. One thing to talk about, you ask about how do I select them in the money, out the money, etc. So it's a combination of the pattern. If I feel that the patterns are about to pop, right? So if we feel that based on the technical analysis, you see that what is the probability and what is the percentage that when I bought here, I bought my 60 calls, so they were below the 160 in a year, and plus the premium, what was the probability for this pattern to be in the 60s based on a combination of, again, implied volatility, not crazy, implied volatility, volume, open interest, and the percentage of this price reaching the 60, how inexpensive that is. Do I buy out the money? Yes, I buy out the money. I buy in the money. It doesn't matter. It depends on the case and how expensive they are. So that's a tricky question to answer. But in the case of SQ, I bought it slightly out the money because of the percentage that was going to. It was a combination percentage from the 50s, 40s to the 60s in a year or 2 years, and also the implied volatility, those calls being very cheap at the time, and that was one reason. Let me see if I have other questions. So number 2, how do you pick the strike? Yep, I answered that. Number 1, circumstances. Yep, basically I bought. Yep, buying the dips on something that I feel based on my research was bullish and it was oversold. All the indicators were telling us the oversold and all that. And then in terms of the securing the profit at 100%, what I do, I keep, like you saw, a core position, and I trade in and out for not 200. So on my trades for SQ, it's been good. So we're talking about 300, 400%. Sometimes if it's a very short term, absolutely at 100 or less. And the longer you run and the longer you run and the better the higher the amount of profits you get, the better and more comfortable you feel. I mean, in my case, of giving back a little bit based on technical analysis. So if I see that it went up here, right? So let's say at this point, I already had, let's say, 700%. So, but my line is telling me that, hey, this is going to drop. There is a high probability that it's going to drop. In the chat, you can see me also hedging on my SQ. I've played puts on SQ. I've played put spreads on my SQ. So when the price came down, I made money coming down. Again, it's never a perfect timing, but you get the idea, right? Play your game. This thing is right in the 10 SMA, and this channel up here. So as you can see, reject, 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 bounce, bounce, bounce. And right now this candle is not a good candle, this invert handle. That's why I said this invert hammer. That's why I said most likely this will go down to the 240s again, which is the handle. And then we need to wait for confirmation, see if it confirms, and then back to the 280, reject 280, but you want to see a light pull and then come back up and break it. All right, for some reason this video is 20 minutes long. If you made it this far, I appreciate the support, my friends. Hit the like button, that helps out the videos. I'm not looking for likes, but that tells me if you enjoy the video or things that I can improve. Leave your comments below, and stay green. Peace out.